Merrill Memo with Matthew Dickerson from Dubbo Regional Council.
Very good morning to the Dubbo Region Mayor, Matthew Dickerson, who I was just trying to have a quick catch-up. Matt, we all know that there was an earthquake at Taiwan, which possibly was felt in Japan. You're in Minakamo. Did that impact you guys where you are?
No, we didn't actually feel that, and I did speak to the locals here about that particular earthquake, and they said they do occasionally get some tremors here, but the area we're in, which is down towards the south end of Japan, is not really an area that's prone to large earthquakes. I mean, all of Japan gets a little bit shaky at times, but this area is pretty good in relation to earthquakes, and obviously the tsunami. We've had many people from home who have been sending us messages. The delegation, the various phones have been pinging at various times saying, okay, heard about a tsunami warming, etc., which is very nice that people back home are thinking about us. But we're a bit like Dubbo here in Minakamo. We're a long way inland, and that was one of the reasons Minakamo was chosen as a sister city, because there are many similarities between Dubbo and Minakamo. So if a tsunami reached us here in Minakamo, then wow, Japan would be in a lot of trouble. So we're pretty safe here. Thank you for all those people that have been concerned about us from home, but we're a couple of hundred kilometres, or probably 150 kilometres from the ocean here.
Yeah, got you. Well, I'm glad that you're all safe, and of course it's pretty devastating for Taiwan, and those people killed, and now there's a lot of cleanup, especially with those buildings. I mean, I don't think I've ever seen a building lean like that, except for the Leaning Tower of Pisa. Have you?
No, and actually we watched one of the videos of some of the rock falls coming down and some of the boulders that were coming down there, hitting cars, crushing cars, very scary. So yeah, definitely thoughts out with all those people in Taiwan affected by that earthquake.
Yeah, it makes it very tough, mate. I've just caught up with the Director of Infrastructure at Council, Luke Ryan, in regards to the immediate temporary water restrictions for Wellington. Evidently, a sensor had failed there, which meant that the dosing mechanism wasn't working, or the dosing didn't occur and happen. And when we first heard this yesterday, I mean, we thought, oh, geez, is there a problem at Council? Because you've had, dosing issues with Dubbo, now dosing issues with Wellington. Luke says no. What do you say?
Well, we'll go back one step. So you're right, the polyaluminium chloride, which is one of the chemicals down there in Wellington, the storage tank for that. We've got sensors in all our storage tank, because obviously there's chemicals in those various treatment processes, and those sensors let us know when we're getting down to certain levels where we need to reorder those chemicals. And in this particular case, that sensor failed. Now, there's probably two arguments there. One, you could say as your sensors get older, sometimes some of them might fail, but at the same time, you could buy a new piece of equipment today and it could fail tomorrow. So it's one of those things that sometimes things fail. We've got processes in place. In that particular example, I'd say thank you to the residents of Wellington. We asked people to just restrict the amount of water they were using. There was no problem, as Luke would have explained, there was no problem with the safety of the water. It was just the water volume. So the reservoir started to go down as people were using water. So again, is it aging infrastructure? Sure, things get old and they fail, but things can be brand new and they fail. So in this case, it was just a random, unfortunate incident that one of those sensors failed, with not too many ramifications in this particular example.
Yeah, understood. I'm trying to find my notes, because also at the same time, yesterday or the last couple of days, Council's released information in regards to the main sewer infrastructure, and it's about 100 years old, and some of it's just about to be renewed or upgraded. So, I mean, that's where the link is coming from in my brain. So you're saying that this is not an ongoing issue?
Well, everything's an ongoing issue in terms of things get older, you've got to replace them, you've got to monitor them. But there was no particular issue here where suddenly we say sensors should be replaced at X number of years and this is way past its use by date. It's a sensor. That sensor's meant to tell our staff in our monitoring and our extensive monitoring that we have in our water treatment when the chemical in that particular storage unit is at a certain level. That sensor failed and didn't let our staff know. So it's a bit random in terms of that. You've got things that are checking what levels everything's at, but you are relying on sensors to do that. So I don't think there's a link to the sewage that you're talking about. That is aging infrastructure. We do need to upgrade some infrastructure across all of our network. You are monitoring that, and you are upgrading various parts of our infrastructure at all times. You're monitoring that.
Matt, I know the local paper also ran a story on March 25 about welts for ashes skin irritations residents pointing the finger at Dubbo tap water, and they reckon in this story a water quality expert has confirmed drinking water has the potential to cause skin irritations in some people. Is that the cause of these? Have you had that looked at or investigated?
Well, the main thing from that, Brett, is that we know that all of our water meets the Australian drinking standards. It's a very strictly, a lot of strict guidelines in relation to drinking water, as you can imagine. If we don't get the water treatment right, you can have a major outbreak. Now, crypto is the main issue that the health authorities are worried about. If you get a cryptosporidium outbreak, then you could have some major health issues across the entire city, keeping in mind that when we're treating water at, say, Dubbo, we're sending that out to tens of thousands of people. So monitoring that water, making sure everything that's coming out of that water treatment plant meets those Australian drinking standards is absolutely crucial, and we don't take that responsibility lightly. Some people with rashes and some people with issues with their skin, I can't link that to any lack of drinking standard water, if you like. They might have some issues and some allergic reaction to some of the chemicals that are in that water, but again, it's all about the health issues in terms of making sure our water is healthy or safe for people to drink. So I don't know specifically about those rashes you're talking about there, but again, I can't stress enough, we meet all of the Australian drinking standards in terms of that water treatment that comes out of our water treatment plant.
All right, one last question about the sewer mains. You're doing it differently. You're utilising, now that I found my notes, a relining technique rather than the previously used process of excavation. Will this make it cheaper to continue restoring that infrastructure, I guess?
That's exactly the point. To go and dig up pipes and then lay down new pipes, obviously, as you can imagine, is very expensive. You're basically doing the same job as you did initially, except a little bit harder because you've got to get rid of the old pipes. The relining process is designed to extend the life of those existing pipes that are in the ground, and again, is basically upgrading the infrastructure without the same expense as the full excavation. So we're always looking at ways that we can continue to upgrade all of our infrastructure and do it in the most efficient way. We've only got a limited bucket, Brett, and that bucket seems to be getting tighter and tighter all the time to be able to use that money in the best possible way.
All right, turning our attention now to the tender for the design and construction of Saxa Road, Coombe-Bella Causeway Bridge. Have you had an outcome with that?
Well, we had an outcome with the tender, but this is more exciting news. There was a fair bit of debate about this issue on council, where there were some councillors who were pretty keen on just leaving the crossing as it was or trying to restore the crossing to be a culvert. But we had heard from the community for a number of years out there that this particular crossing there needed more than a culvert, because every time there was a little bit of rain, a little bit of water, that culvert went underwater, and then that meant that road couldn't be used. Now, that road is used as a regional road. So we're talking about Saxa Road here. It's a link, if you like, between the Golden Highway across to the Mitchell Highway, so the Dunedoo Road across to the Wellington Road. And that's used by a number of different vehicles, not just the local people that live out there, but we believe that we had a pretty good chance of getting a federal government grant for that and to cover almost all the costs of that, and then we're looking for some more money from the state. But again, some councillors weren't keen on going ahead with this because we weren't certain of getting that money from the federal government. Well, yesterday it was fantastic. Christian McBain announced that the Coombe-Bella crossing received $2.779322 million, so basically $2.8 million for that crossing. That crossing's again cost a little bit more than that, but again, we've got some money that we're chasing from the state government for disaster relief money. So essentially, at this stage, almost all of that cost of that crossing will be covered by the federal government and then hopefully topped up by the state government. So that's a good outcome, and that means we can construct the bridge that we always wanted to construct there, and that will be at minimal cost or maybe end up being at zero cost to ratepayers. So fantastic outcome, and that was the way councillors wanted to go. That was the way the majority of councillors wanted to go, so that was the resolution of council to go that way, and a great outcome for council and good outcome for the people that live over there and the people that will use that road. We believe that'll probably be finished by April next year, so it's a fairly long process to go through and do that, but at least we're going down the right track and not coming at great expense to ratepayers.
No, that is good news. What was it? You said $2.779322 billion.
Yes.
But how much more will you need to go on top of that you'll have to put in council?
No, we're talking about $200,000, but again, we'll look at that from disaster relief funding from the state government. So the whole project, we believe, is about a $3.2 million project or thereabouts.
Yeah, got you. I just wanted to say 2.779322 like you did.
I like to be accurate, Brett, in the information I give you. You know that. I want to make sure that every bit of information I give you is absolutely accurate.
Thank you. Bit of a tongue twister. Metacamo, when you finishing up there, if you had fun, I saw some Aussie flags and whatnot with the welcoming committee that helped you out there at the beginning.
Yeah, that's right. And everywhere we go, we've got the welcome signs out for us. We went and looked at Dubbo Road yesterday. I haven't seen Dubbo Road before. This was a new thing that was put in by the last council a few years ago. There was some money put in by our council to put a couple of bronze kangaroos and a Dubbo sign and a Dubbo barbecue. The Dubbo barbecue was actually my idea way back in about 2013. They said, we've got this wonderful Japanese tea house in Dubbo, what could we have in Minakama that reflects Dubbo? And I said, well, the most Aussie thing I can think of is an Aussie barbecue. So they've got an Aussie barbecue now they've built, and some kangaroos, some bronze kangaroos that Brett Garling from Wongarbin did. So we got the chance to look at that yesterday for the first time, and that's a well-utilised area, not so much in winter, but certainly in spring and summer there. So that's a fantastic spot there. And again, just so welcoming, and just the cultural exchanges, I think have been fantastic. But the way they talk about the relationship is absolutely brilliant. And I actually met someone yesterday who was part of the original delegation that came over to Dubbo 35 years ago. And he just talked about that journey that we've been on together, and just wonderful friendships, I suppose, and wonderful cultural exchanges.
I like the picture of a few of you behind the sign, Homo sapiens at their zoo. That was pretty cool.
Well, that was back in South Korea, but again,
Was it?
that's
a shame.
yeah, that's a fine. So yeah, look, a wonderful visit.
No, that's good. I'm out of time. Hopefully we'll see you next week at some point.
Sounds great. Thanks, Brett.
Thanks very much.
Merrill Memo with Matthew Dickerson from Dubbo Regional Council.